Politicians in modern democratic societies portray themselves as if they were priests, a habit shared with more than a few professions wherein its practitioners will make a show out of telling others how they were called to their role for or by a higher purpose. And like more actual clergymen than you'd be comfortable with admitting, the real higher purpose that calls to them is that of their own wealth and aggrandizement. Politicians and doctors are not priests, the rich are not noble, and cops and soldiers are not knights. But they believe as much about themselves, and they expect us to treat them as if this untruth is the reality. I have heard it said that power corrupts, or alternatively that power attracts the corruptible, but I would dare whittle that down a bit more and say that power is itself corrupt. It cannot help but be, and it must constantly disguise itself as truthful and moral, when both are as poison to the political process. We hire professional liars every time we vote, and we want it that way, deep down. Only those with crippling levels of naivete could truly take the things they tell us as a truthful statement. We know it's propaganda and sloganeering, and we want it that way. We want to be gassed up about how cool our people and our country and our religion are, and playing with that formula to generate one social outcome or another can easily backfire, as we are all currently experiencing following this paradoxical period of racist anti-racism over promoting diversity, which has only reinforced racist sentiments across the board. All modes of governance are artificial solutions to a problem that cannot even be properly defined or identified. They all have their rationale, otherwise no one would ever have attempted their use in the first place, but they are all insufficient to their ever-changing and growing task. And like the people who form the actual body of the government, these institutions reflexively disguise their purposes and intentions behind a veil of pretty words and hollow reassurances. Democrats will start wars, turn a blind eye to pollution, abuse state power, and criminalize their own constituents over trivialities. Republicans will raise taxes, provide abortions to their mistresses and teenage daughters, and pass laws that interfere with your personal freedom. Saying that they are both hypocritical is insufficient. Hypocrisy doesn't even factor into it. The only reason to get into party politics is for the express purpose of engaging in these very practices. Monarchy is no better. Communism is no better. Socialism is a capitalist scam and thus no better. Theocracy is no better. Fascism is no better. They may each have their different solutions to different problems, but they are all corrupt and vulnerable to destabilization. But the American brand of bipolar party politics, in combination with how our news media is structured, is ruining everyone's ability to form cohesive communities, relate to one another, or even do something as basic as being able to enjoy their lives. We have been encouraged to become paranoid and crazed, lurching from one existential apocalypse to the next, election cycle after election cycle, all based on a litany of lies that are sourced from selectively chosen truths and a convenient arrangement of facts. The atmosphere has sickened to a stage where it is near impossible to navigate this situation without facing accusations of mischaracterization from one or both sides of the divide. Emotional detachment will seem like cold indifference to those who have convinced themselves of emotionally driven conspiracy. This is not merely endemic to the right-wing InfoWars crowd. Large segments of the left wing are consumed with their own conspiracies of narrative spin, seeing oppression everywhere, but never their own hand in it. If you don't care about this, you must believe that. If you don't believe in this version of the truth, you must be a beneficiary of the perceived opposite. Showing empathy for all, and not just the approved in-group subcultures, is an even greater crime. If you don't want to hurt our enemies, you must be one of our enemies, even if only a collaborator. Being a collaborator is even worse than being an enemy, as you will be deemed a traitor. No time can be wasted on self-discovery when you have a political identity to maintain and feed with talking points. An enlightened society will not donate $20 to our campaign. We are being kept deliberately off balance and confused, so deep into chasing each other's ideological tails to even notice how far both pools of voters have been asked to abandon the very principles that drew them to their sides to begin with. Healing the social fabric is neither desired or attempted. We are the way they want us to be, but that is not the full truth of it. We are the way we want to be, as evidenced by the blinders so many wear when they consent to electing these people who have proven themselves duplicitous and untrustworthy time and again. Certainly there are many who are indeed fool enough to buy the honey words they are sold without question, but there are more than enough people out there with two brain cells to rub together, and have been around long enough to have noticed by now that they have no true intention on delivering on the vast bulk of what they promise while campaigning for your consent to their rule. And even when they do so, there is always some hidden catch, some amendment or another that either reverses the entire point of what had been promised, or uses it as a Trojan horse to sneak something nefarious through. Republicans and Democrats are not merely some uniparty. They are truly one and the same, mirror reflections that hate one another for revealing the same beast within. They define one another, set each other's agendas and limitations. Both are fully complicit with the plans of the other, for both share the same ultimate goal of personal enrichment at the expense of the rest of us. The Democrats only offer resistance when it's symbolic in nature, but not when one would have thought resistance was needed the most. Scholastically encouraged activism was just a containment device to gas up the youth and get them to the polls, not because they give a shit about anyone's rights or historical minority status. They dropped trans activism like a hot potato the second they realized that they may lose to Trump, which was too little too late. The culture had been spooked successfully by conservative internet dweebs, and all because the Democrats overplayed their hand, pushing too much change too fast. And now everyone with any wit can see how vaporous and insubstantial all of our much vaunted rights really are, always have been, and always will be. And the emotionally manipulated right-wing voters are overplaying their hand on speedrun mode as we speak. So which shame is worse, my conservative viewers? The shame of admitting that most of your cherished talking points of the last 40 years were not convictions at all, just convenient rationalizations to tell yourself and others? Or is it more shameful to admit that you have been successfully duped by a guy who exemplifies what poor ghetto trash thinks wealthy looks like? Brand Trump the Antichrist? Or flip all you had once professed to believe in? You're fine with being spied on 24/7, no matter where you go by AI snitch bots. You're fine with branding and canceling people as anti-Semites for even saying the word Jew if you're not Jewish. You must support federal control of local police forces and military troops earning some more of that amazing valor I keep hearing about by serving a supplemental policing role in spite of centuries of military philosophy deciding that that was a bad idea to do to your own country. Oh, and for the Christians out there in Trump land, I'm glad to see you've come around on transhumanism and worrying about man-machine interfaces and the hubris of trying to recreate what God has done by attempting to create artificial minds out of autofill software. We're supplementing our government departments with it now. Totally not blasphemous in a way that no medieval witch or Catholic could possibly match. Did you really think that your Antichrist figure would be someone popular on the secular left? He wouldn't need to trick secularists and non-Christians into turning away from God. Your Antichrist was always going to be someone that Christians helped place in power, in spite of all the obvious signs that the dude was in bed with the devil. Too much, too fast. The normies out there in Normaland don't like that. That's part of what allowed Trump to win. Do you realize that this is setting up a return of a tighter and leaner left that will be more honestly left-wing and more focused because voters will now expect their presidents to do some dramatic shit for some time to come? Both sides need to internalize this. MAGA is a reaction to woke, which is a reaction to the Bush-Cheney era, which was a reaction to the 90s prototype woke, which was a reaction to Reaganism, which was a reaction to Carter, who was a reaction to the perceived corruption of Nixon, who was elected as a repudiation of the Democrats' complicity in the Vietnam War, who got into power on a wave of cultural relaxation after the post-World War brand of Eisenhower conservatism, which was itself a reaction to World War II when Democrats nuked Japan, which erupted following the rise of European fascism, colliding with the death of the imperial powers, which is apparently the result of too much gay sex going on in Berlin, because they were all bummed out in Germany after losing the First World War, which was the last act of the global scramble at the end of the Gilded Victorian era that arose from the ashes of the Civil War, and so on and so forth, all the way back to the very first dude who threatened someone else with a stick. You are not your identity. Your thoughts have been influenced and shaped by a chain reaction that stretches across all of human history. An identity is merely a shorthand way of describing yourself to a total stranger. All you really are is a floating point of awareness, embedded in one of the universe's strangest phenomena, life. Are you an individual being in command of your own thoughts and convictions? Or are you part of a living wave phenomenon of emotional outrage? Knowing that you are being exposed to attempted manipulation of your perception of safety and your sense of right and wrong, where can you draw the line between your beliefs and what others want you to believe? How can you know who you are and what you truly think when there are so many who would sell you an identity to wear and keep you distracted in its maintenance? We currently live in the safest and wealthiest and most productive time in all of human history, and yet we are all still miserable. None of the solutions we employed to fix what we deemed wrong with the natural order of things has satisfied us. None of it addressed what was really wrong with us. None of our answers add up, because existence is not a question. There is no right or wrong form of government. They are all just governments, and they are all terrible in each their own way. For we are but simple primates still, and were never meant to have any power at all, let alone enslave each other and excuse it by calling ourselves citizens. Detachment does not equate to not feeling at all, nor does it mean inaction. I would say the Buddhist approach to American politics would be, above all else, not to take any of it personally. Vote, or vote by not voting, in the manner that best meets your conscience, not your identity. Be mindful that all politicians will tell you whatever they think you would believe just enough to vote for them over the other guy, even if one may lie more brazenly than their counterpart. They don't even realize that they are lying 90% of the time. It's just the way that lawyers have been taught to speak. Don't become too hung up on it. Just notice when it happens, and let it shape your decisions accordingly. Don't let it steal all the joy from your life.